Namaskar. A very warm welcome to everyone to this session. A sharing about the masters is like diving into a fathomless ocean of grace. But the idea is to bring out something that can serve as a learning point for everyone. So when I look back into my own association with the masters I met, a few experiences of the early years stand out because those were moments when I saw the fiery side of the Guru. So in the world, when you hear some harsh words or sarcastic words from friends, from relatives, or from anybody outside, there is great anger and resentment. And things go from bad to worse. But when the Guru decides to be fiery, then it is to give a teaching. And sometimes, because we are inert, we are really caught up with some deep-rooted sanskar. A harsh treatment or the fire is needed to burn it. Because otherwise a person is so comfortable with himself or herself that one would not look within and will never realize what is holding him or her back. So as I shared in the earlier sessions, I was too full of myself. And I thought I knew. Most things, if not everything. So when I met Guru Mai, and I was good with the translation work from translating articles from English to Hindi. So a lot of praise came in. And that somehow created this kind of a notion in my mind that my worth is being recognized by even the Guru. And how wrong I was. Because when the arrogance comes up or this ego comes up, then the Guru has to take some harsh measures. So there was a time when some festival was there, something was going on, and there were these large crowds of people in the ashram. So the number of people swelled up to such a degree that in the ashram routine every day at 5 o'clock, Shri Guru Gita was being chanted. So there was not enough enough space to accommodate them in the usual places. So the morning gatherings used to take place in a big ground. So one day I was a little late, and I reached the place. Guru Gita was just about to start, and one of the girls we called them darshan girls. They used to take care of taking people to Guru Mai or arranging things around her. So she was standing outside and she greeted me and she said, "Please come," and took me to the front of the congregation and there was a space, and made me sit there. So this was a kind of another boost to my ego. And Guru Gita happened. It was a blissful time, and then sometimes Guru Mai would take up the mic and start talking to people. And that morning, she started talking about the environment. It was 1990, and in India, people were not so conscious about the environment. And she started by asking people, she said, "Do you ever bother how much of a forest cover our country has?" And not a single Indian had the answer. The Westerners gave the answer. And they also said that how fast the forest cover is depleting in India. And she started talking about how important it is to preserve the environment. And one of the first initiatives had just been announced for cleaning the Ganges, because Guru Mai said we are spoiling our rivers. Rivers are givers of life, and we are spoiling them. So suddenly, through all this, she had pointed out to me, and I was asked to translate for her. So I was doing that. There was one sentence which I did not translate correctly. And I could see a frown appeared on her forehead. She covered her mic, and she said in Hindi, "मैंने ऐसा तो नहीं बोला था." And I immediately corrected myself and repeated now the correct version of the translation. But this incident was enough to throw me off balance. But she was in a testing mood, and after that, she started talking about the initiative announced by the government to cleanse the Ganges, the holy river, and then she suddenly told me in Hindi, "अरे ये सब लोगों को बताओ सरकार गंगा के लिए क्या कर रही है." Now it was there in the papers, but I was never interested in the environment. I was interested in all the political gossip which used to come in the newspapers. And every day I was spending maybe an hour. Those days, this social media and other things were not there. Newspapers were a very important part of our lives. And I used to spend a lot of time reading the newspapers. In fact, carry the newspaper to my office. So whenever I had time and there was no work, I would just open it and read. But I had not cared to figure out or find out what was being done by the government to restore the cleanliness of the river. So I went blank. I did not know what to say. And there was this very awkward silence. After which I told Guru Mai that I don't know about it. And again she covered her mic and said in Hindi, रोज 1 घंटा अखबार पढ़ते हो, इतना भी नहीं मालूम, कुछ तो बोलो, बोलो बोलो. Now a certain kind of arrogance came up, or I felt cornered. So what to do? But I didn't want to open my mouth just for the fear of being exposed as a fool. So it was my time to cover my mic. I told her, गुरुमाई जी मैंने आपको बोला ना कि मुझे नहीं मालूम. And what she did the next moment was totally unexpected. In her mic, she said, सोने वाले जागो. And she just threw her arms like this and said, सोने वाले जागो. And got up from her chair and walked through the middle aisle through this entire crowd of 2,000 people. And the meeting ended in such an unceremonious manner. For me, it was very shocking. I was absolutely stunned by her gesture and what she said. And I felt as if, the ground should open up and I should disappear. And everybody in that crowd knew that this fellow has done something to anger the Guru. They did not know what has transpired. And great shame, a great sense of disappointment arose. Because of me, my Guru was put to discomfort. Anyway, the gathering had dispersed, so I too picked up my asana and my chanting book, walked back into the main area of the ashram. And I stood in the queue of people who were lining up for the morning breakfast. And this kind of a stirring was going on in my mind. I was going over the incident over and over again. And suddenly, somebody tapped me on my shoulder. I looked back. It was a Westerner, short-statured, slim. And he had a smile on his face. And he said, I do not know why Guru Mai did what she did with you. Because our conversation was in Hindi and nobody knew because we were covering our mics. So he said, I do not know why Guru Mai did what she did with you. But in that moment, I saw a dark shadow leave your body. I was still caught in my sense of shame or whatever. I did not pay that much heed to the real meaning of these words. It took me maybe half a minute to realize what what this gentleman was telling me. And then I turned around to thank him. This realization came that whatever Guru Mai had done was to cleanse me of some of my old sanskars of arrogance or sense of prestige, not being considered a fool by others. So it was her healing touch. And when I realized this, I turned back just to thank this gentleman. And he was not there. He had disappeared. I was there in the ashram for 2 more days. It was a weekend, I believe. And the Westerners living in the ashram in those days were maybe 100, 150, 200. And I kept looking for this man for the next 2 days. I didn't find him. He had mysteriously disappeared. But then I realized the true nature of the Guru. Guru is not there to give us comfort. Guru is going to shake us out of our stupor, out of some nonsensical concepts that we have. And if one is not able to surrender to the Guru has to power to make that surrender happen, no matter what. It is painful because the ego is being hurt. But the Guru takes that decision, and Guru forces those kinds of situations, because then I could see the entire scheme of things. I was late. I would have sat at the back of this congregation of 2,000 people. But Guru Mai had posted somebody there. She took me to the front rows. And this is what followed. She asked me to translate for her. I made a mistake. And I had to correct myself. So the idea that, I know Hindi very well or I know English very well, it crumbled then and there. And then she threw me off balance by asking a question or asking me to share something about the environmental protection, which I did not know. So this was a revelation of a very important facet of the Guru. There were 2 more occasions when I received a firing from Solita Variaji. And those moments were also defining moments for me. My friend Shashi Kapila, she knew about my very close association with Tavariyaji. And I was in a government job. There was a time when I would have been transferred, and the association would have come to an end. So she had some contacts, and she used those contacts to figure out something for me by way of a job. So if I get that job, I would have got the chance to stay in Mumbai for a long time. I would have been there. But there were some issues there. I was in a government job. I could not apply for another job. If I apply through the government will make sure that it doesn't happen. There will be so many questions that how do you know, what is your association, this and that. So Shashi made things easy for me. She managed to create a situation where I would have to face some kind of an informal interview, chit chat over a cup of tea. And if I am approved by the bosses and everything is decided, then I can put in my papers, resign, and after the resignation, the notice period is over and I'm free, then I can join that job. So it was more or less agreed that this is how it is going to happen. Now, it was a big decision. So I shared this with Tavariyaji. It was an afternoon when I was sitting in office and I suddenly got this impulse that I should share it with him. So I gave him a ring. Normally I would go and meet him in the evenings. And I said, I want to share something with you. He said, come now, I am free. So it was just about 10-15 minutes away from my office. I went to his residence. And I shared this news, so to say. I was sharing the news rather than asking a question. And he asked me 1,000 questions, very searching questions. What will happen? What will happen? I felt very irritated. Why is asking so many things? So I just told him somewhere that it is an important decision for me. I am in a job which is very secure. And now I am getting into a private job. So just I wanted to know whether it is good for me or not. So after asking me all those questions that lasted for almost an hour, he tells me that, look, this is my advice for you. He said, if you can get this job without appearing at that informal interview, then you take it. Now I was looking at a very rosy life that I will start, from after the next few months, I will start getting a salary which will be 5 times or 6 times the salary that I was getting, and there would be this perk, that perk. I was in cloud 9. But when he said this, it was like a crash landing. So my first response was that, Solibhai, in a private job market, why would anybody give me a job unless I am interested? I have to be interested, isn't it? And this was a wrong move. He became very angry. I had always seen him smiling, playing his little games with people, helping them. And this time he was fired. He got very angry and he told me, pointed to the door of his flat and said, have I put a board outside saying that this Soli Tavaria is available to people for consultation? I was taken aback by his Raudra Roop, the fiery thing. He said, have I put a board outside? Again he repeated. I said, no. He said, why have you come to me? You have come here because you think I can see something that you cannot see with your eyes. So, I have seen all that. And I have given you a reply. Now you are using your puny little mind to pick holes in my answer. And then he dropped the bombshell. He said, I have no time for people like you. You can go. My God. I didn't know what to do. But I was saved because just then the doorbell rang and there was a family who had come to see him for some issues with the health of a senior member. And he started talking to them. Normally, he was very kind to me. And whenever he would have guests and I was sitting there, he would always include me into the conversation. But on that particular afternoon, he just ignored me. And I kept sitting in one corner of the drawing room and lost in my own thoughts. He has asked me to go away. And what if he does not allow me to come back again? What a fool I am. And in that moment, this understanding arose that Mr. Solitavaria has told me that I should accept this job only if I do not have to appear at the interview, and it just comes like that. So be it. I will not do this. And I will not go for it. Because I know it is not going to come. The job is not going to be offered to me just like that. So anyway, that family took maybe 45 minutes, I don't know. And then they all left. So just the two of us were left in that room. And he sat in his favorite place and he was sitting. And I didn't know what to do. So after some time I gathered courage, I went up to him, I bowed down to him. And I told him, sir, I am leaving. And he said rather gruffly, he said, yes, go. So I was making my way to the door. It was just a few steps, but I was halfway through. And suddenly he got up from the sofa and told me in a very commanding voice, come here. So I turned back, went up to him, and stood before him. I was looking into his face and his eyes, and he was looking into my face and my eyes. And we were locked in this kind of a visual contact with one another for a few moments. And then a very beautiful smile broke on his face. And he said, son, take one mantra from me today. And then I thought, oh my God, it's a big day for me. Because he had, in his childhood, his guru had initiated him into Gayatri Sadhana. And then, as I shared, the practice was that you stand on one leg in Vrikshasana and chant the mantra for 1.5 hours without putting the leg down. And then, after years of this kind of sadhana, the goddess Ma Gayatri had appeared before him and blessed him. And the blessing was that whatever wish you will make for others, that will come true in their life. I said, it is my big day. He is going to initiate me into the Gayatri Mantra. But that was not to be. He gave me something very practical. He said, the mantra is very simple. Don't ask for anything and never say no to anything. And then he smiled very mischievously and he said, how do you know what is good for you? So let God decide. And this way, if you live, you will always be in alignment with the divine will. And then he gave me just a pat on my cheek and said, now you can go. So I knew that the doors of his house were not being closed for me. But this is what it is. The fiery form of the Guru is to burn something within us. So it is the fire, like the goldsmith purifies the gold by putting it in fire, melting it. So when you are before the fire of the Guru, that fire is going to burn through the rigidity, the desires, everything. I was reminded of what one of the darshan girls of Guru Mai had shared. That there were these girls who used to stay in the ashram, they stayed for long years. They used to run errands for Guru Mai. And Guru Mai was very benevolent. Many people would come to the ashram and make a lot of offering, good offerings, clothes, ornaments, whatnot. She was not using these things. So she would give it to these girls. And one of the girls shared that they had all gone to one of the Jyotirlings for darshan. And they never carried anything, any cash or anything with them. So in the sanctum sanctorum, some offerings were made to Lord Shiva. And suddenly Guru Mai turned to this darshan girl and said, you also offer something? And she said, Guru Mai, I don't have anything. And she pointed to the diamond earrings that she had given a few months ago. And those were big diamonds, very costly earrings. She said, you have those? Offer them. In one moment, the desire or attachment to those earrings or ornaments just disappeared for life. So this is what the Guru does. The other time when I received fire from Solita Variach is also very interesting. It came towards the end of our association. I was about to be transferred, and in the government there are set rules that you spend this much time in a particular station and it is your time to go. So the transfer is going to come. And then people are asked to give their choices and then the ministry makes a decision. So all this was going on and I had given my choice. to move out of Mumbai. So one day I mentioned this to Soli Bhai. And he said, no, you don't go. You stay here. So I tried to explain it to him that, look, Soli Bhai, it is inevitable in the government. I will have to go. He said, no, no, I am asking you not to go. You don't go. You stay here. I said, why? Why are you asking me to do that? I was curious. And then in his own, Parsi style Hindi said, मैं इधर ही शरीर में ज्यादा दिन नहीं है, तो जब तक मैं इधर है तब तक तू रह, जब मैं जाऊंगा तो तू भी जाना. Oh my God. I had never thought about this. And our conversation ended, but now something was planted in my mind that this great man wants me to be here for some reason. So I must stay. And what do I do? So I started looking at the options that could be available to me. So I was handling a job which was an important job. My boss was in Delhi at that time. And I found out that there were some instructions that people handling this kind of sensitive job should be there in that post for at least 2 years at a time. And the way things were happening, I would have been transferred after 1 year. So I thought I must beseech my boss, ask him to invoke this rule and hold me for 1 more year in Mumbai. So I waited for a few days, found out that there was an opportunity to have a personal discussion with him of some matters. So I went to Delhi and I told him this. Yes, sir, I want to hang on in Mumbai for 1 more year. So I need your help. Please do something for me. And he asked me, why do you want to do that? So I told him that I'm in contact with this great householder saint, Mr. Soli Tavaria. He had asked me to stay. So my boss was a very congenial gentleman, very nice, but he was not in spirituality. So he was looking at my face as if he's looking at some animal in the zoo. And then he said to me in this Punjabi Hindi, अरे ये बोलने से कि कोई संत ने बोला है रुक जाओ, कौन रुकने वाला है? तुम अपने को बीमार बताओ ऐसी कोई बीमारी हो गई जिसका इलाज और कहीं नहीं हो सकता है, अपने को बीमार बताओ, अपनी बीवी को बीमार बताओ, कुछ करो, उसकी बेसिस पर बोलो कि हमको इधर रुकना है तो कुछ हो सकता है. तो ऐसा बनाओ, मैं कर दूंगा तुम्हारा रेकमेंड. आफ्टर ऑल द डिसीजन विल बी टेकन बाय द मिनिस्ट्री. So I came out of his room and I went to the room of Mr. G.C. Srivastava. He is here in this meeting. He was in the same building. And I told him, भाई साहब एक कागज दीजिए, मुझे एप्लीकेशन बनानी है. But when I was going to put my pen to that paper and write something, this thought arose that Mr. Soli Tavaria has asked me to stay in Mumbai for more time. It is like God has asked me to stay. And whatever I am going to write on this paper will be a falsehood. a pretext. Will I take recourse to a falsehood to make something happen, which Mr. Solitavaria has asked? And the answer I got from within was no. And I told GC Vaisap at that time that I am not going to give this application anymore. I will go back. So he asked me, what are you going to do with your boss? You have told him that you will write something and give it to him. I said, okay, I will devise something. So I went to my boss's room and told him that I cannot think of a good pretext right now. So I will go to Mumbai and then from there send the application. So he shrugged his shoulders. He said, yes, your wish. I came back to Mumbai. And then the next time I went to see Tavariyaji, I told him that this is what happened. I had gone to Delhi and it is not working out. He got very angry with me. And he gave me a firing. He said, people like you, they always use their mind and do things which are unnecessary. And then with great anger he asked me, did I ask you to go to Delhi and try? No, I told him, when I saw him angry, I told him, but you only asked me that I should stay in Mumbai. So he said, yes, I told you that. But did I ask you to go to Delhi and try? And this he had not asked. So I told him, no, you didn't ask. So you have tried on your own. Why didn't you tell me that you are going to Delhi? I had not told him. So I said, I'm sorry, I didn't do that. He said, but you have tried and failed. Now what can we do about it? And again, I felt as if he's going to throw me out of his house, his flat. And this will be the end of our association. But God sent a rescue team, somebody or the other arrived, the doorbell rang, and I was saved. And once these fellows were gone, I went to take leave of him. And he said, see, when I bowed down to him, he also got up. So we were face to face again. He pointed his finger like this, heavenwards. And he said, I have put your application there. And then he said, normally he does not turn any down, and he does not turn anything down which is endorsed by me. And then he smiled and said, but he is the boss. He chuckled. He is the boss. He can decide any application whichever way he wants. So I nodded, yes. Then he said, what is the lesson in this for both of us? I didn't know what to say, what lesson I could draw. And he said, my son, the lesson is simple. We should rejoice in him. If he decides to retain you in Mumbai, we should rejoice in him for this opportunity. But if he decides to send you away, then also we should rejoice it. And he asked me, understood? I nodded. And he said, go. He took away my attachment to this desire that his command be fulfilled. I stopped thinking about it. As things happened in the government, it took some time. After a month and a half or so, the orders came and I was transferred. So, since I had given up this desire to be in Mumbai, I came to know of the order, I accepted it, I did not feel very upset about it. I said, okay, that is God's wish now, I have to go. But I was handling a job that was very sensitive and I could not leave unless there was somebody who had been put in my place and I had handed over all the files, all the records to him, briefed him about everything that I was handling. And in the order that was passed by the ministry, I was transferred out, but nobody was placed in, or nobody was named to replace me. So I came to the office the next day, and very innocently I rang up my boss in Delhi to tell him that, sir, I have been transferred, but there is nobody here to whom I should give my charge. What do I do? Some handing over would be needed, so you kindly name somebody whom I can hand over charge. So he was in a different mood. That day when I requested him to, somehow do something and retain me in Mumbai, he had looked at me as if I was an animal in a zoo. And he must have been smiling at that end. He said to me on phone, अरे गॉड तू तो बोल रहा था तुझको रुकना है बम्बई में, तो तू बाद में आया नहीं. तो मैंने अभी देखा ऑर्डर में तो तेरी जगह कोई है नहीं, तो मैंने सोचा है कि आई विल जस्ट मेक ए रिक्वेस्ट that you should not hand over charge, you should be retained here because nobody is named in your place. So I said, sir, it is your wish. He made that request. But nothing happened. After about 10-15 days, I had some friends there in Delhi. I tried to find out. So they said to me, somebody who was a very close friend, he said, look, there are these devatas, these gods and goddesses sitting here in the ministry. You have some request, you come here, at least talk to them nicely and make a request here, then something may happen. Simply because your boss has written or made a request on your behalf, it's not going to happen. But I had made up my mind that if I had to make a request, if I have to bow down, I will bow down before Mr. Tavaria. Why should I go and bow down before humans? I didn't do anything. And finally, a revision order came and I was retained in Mumbai till the next 31st March. So I didn't expect this. So when the order came, I was really overcome with joy. And I immediately rushed with the copy of that order to Tavariaji and showed it to him. Said, sir, this is what has happened. And he looked at that order very disdainfully because I had initially been posted to Nagpur, which I had asked for. And the order was that I would go there after 31st of March. He said, even this order would be cancelled. I don't see you going on a posting to Nagpur in this life of yours. So you can throw this order in the dustbin. So what happened was that the place which I had to occupy in Nagpur, that was also important. And the bosses there did not want to wait for somebody for so long. So they managed to tell the ministry that, look, our needs are paramount. So somebody else was posted there, so this order got cancelled completely. I never went to Nagpur on a posting. Then, as this 31st of March came close, I had a change of boss. And the new boss called me up and he said, look, I want you to stay in this post for one more year because I am totally new. There are some important things you are handling. So if there is somebody new in your place, it will create some difficulty. I was very happy. Oh, God is going to give me another opportunity to stay for one more year, and I will be in touch with this great man. So again, I went up to Solivai and shared this news with him. This time, he did not say anything. He simply said, "We shall see." And because my boss was new and he had assured me that he is going to retain me for 1 year, I was very confident that in the new or the next annual transfer orders, I will be retained in Mumbai. A few days before these orders came, I went to see Tavariyaji, and every year he used to take sometimes a week, sometimes 10 days, sometimes 15 days off, and go to Sangli, where one of his friends had a hotel, and he would stay in that hotel for this period, and it was some kind of an ekantavas or remaining in seclusion for Solibhai. The switchboard was specifically instructed that only those calls should be routed to his room, where he had told the switchboard that such and such person will call, and that call should be put through to my room. So he jokingly told me a few times that I go there every year to charge my batteries. He said on any day, some 200 people call with all kinds of issues and problems. I'm constantly talking to people. So these are the days when I just take my time. It is me time for me. So he was going to Sangli. And I had gone with something or the other, which should have not taken time, but he gave me 1 hour or maybe more. And he kept on teasing me about so many things and asking me questions. And then suddenly he looked at his watch and he said, now you go. I have to go and catch a bus. I'm going to Sangli. I'll be back after 10-15 days. So I was leaving, and that day he did something which he hadn't done before. He came out of the flat to bid me goodbye. Normally he would wave from the door. And then one had to climb down because in his building the lift was out of order. It had been out of order for many years. And he would jokingly say that people who want to come and see me, this is their tapasya, they have to climb 6 floors. So they must earn some merit before they can come and see me. And I was going to the staircase, and suddenly I looked back, and he was standing at the end. And he just bent over me, took my face in the cup of his palms, patted my cheek as if I was a little child. And then he winked at me and he said, "Son, time is running out." And he laughed and let go of me. I didn't get it because he had asked me some questions about my sadhana. And I said to him that, "Sir, I promise to be more perseverant in future." And he just laughed and waved and turned around. And I came down, came home. And this was the month of June. A few days later, the annual general transfer orders came, and I found that despite the assurance given to me by my boss, I was transferred to Pune. So when I came to know of this order, the first thought that crossed my mind was this, that look, this great man had asked me, had told me that as long as I am here in this body, you be here, and when I go, you go. And now I am going. But next morning the news arrived that Tavariyaji had left his body the previous afternoon at Sangli. So he had already left his body before my orders to leave Mumbai arrived. Everything that he told me had happened. By his grace, I was allowed to be there in Mumbai with him for as long as he remained in the body. Such was his grace. This narration will not be complete unless I share one more incident. It is not the incident of his anger, it's the incident of his love. Once I and my wife both had gone, and he suddenly started talking about how his family has some connection with a person who who has a shop selling all kinds of chaat at Chowpatty, the sea beach at Chowpatty, and how once in a while this family goes and they have a lot of chat. And he was looking at me and my wife, and suddenly out of the blue he asked my wife, "Does your husband take you to Chowpatty?" And she said, "No, he never takes me there." So he looked at me and asked me, Why don't you take her to Chowpatty?" So I told him, "Soli bhai, that's a very dirty place. I don't like it." And with feigned anger he said, "Never say that again." And he pointed to himself, "I go there and eat." And then he looked at my wife and said, बेटी मैं तेरे को ले जाऊंगा, हम दोनों अपन दोनों जाएंगे और उधर मजा करेंगे. And he was with from a corner of his eyes he was looking at me also. Ki, what is my reaction to this? He is taking my wife to chapati. And then he said, we will give your husband the option of joining us. We all had a great laugh. The matter was over. A few days later, Amma, Solifai's wife, called us and said, when are you planning to go to Chapati? Soli wants a date. I told her that, Amma, this was a joke. She said, no, he is very serious. You tell me. So to cut the long story short, we picked him up from his residence. We picked him and Amma up from his residence. He took us to the place of a childhood friend first, who is or was also the father-in-law of her daughter. Her daughter had got married into the family. And Solivai must have told them about us, so we were received with great gusto, with lot of love. We had to eat something there, then we all went to Chapati. And there was Mr. Tavaria, like the dancing Shiva, the Nataraj. He was so full of joy and so much energy. He fed everybody with his own hands and kept on feeding us. And we were full and everybody started crying almost that they were not able to take it anymore. But he would go on and on, on and on. And then finally it was over. And this friend of his told him that, look, now these people have come from a different direction. We will be going to that side where your residence is, so we will drop you home. So he looked at me and he said, नहीं, आज इसकी सेवा है. So we drove Solita Variaji and Amma to his residence. It was almost 11 o'clock in the night. We got out of the car. Or perhaps I was still sitting there waiting for my wife to get out of the back seat and come and sit in front. And Solivai just bent and looked through me through the window and he said, अभी ऊपर आना चाहता है तो आ सकता है. So this was a divine invitation. We just got out, went up. And from that time till 2 o'clock in the morning, he shared his life's story. How he had met his guru, how at every step of his life, the guru was the deciding factor. He had taken the decisions. And what had happened, what kind of experiences he had gone through. When we came down at 2, our hearts were full. My son, who was maybe 9-10 years of age, he was quite affected by all this. And the next evening, he was playing when one of our neighbors just walked in. She was a colleague. And she started talking to this little boy. And very innocently he told her that, Auntie, yesterday I had chat with God at Chapati. She did not get it. So she met me later in the lift and she said, "What is your son saying? What was your son telling me?" And I just told her that he was overwhelmed because we had gone with a great personality. But that is the nature of the Guru. The Guru is fire, the Guru is love, the Guru is sustenance. And just remembering the Guru is good enough because all the knowledge, all the understanding gets transmitted in that moment when one becomes one with the Guru. In Sri Guru Gita, there is this particular shloka or verse. It says, Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na ved saha ananya bhava bhavaya tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So Guru is like the Brahma, the Supreme Truth, which is without form and without attribute. So whatever we say we know, we have known it with the mind. So those who say I know, they do not know. How can you know something which is without form and without attribute? And those who say I do not know, they know. Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasa ananya bhava bhavaya. Becoming one with that truth, becoming one with that principle is the only way. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. One who shows that path is the Guru. So this is the nature of the Guru, and each time remembering the Guru, talking about the Guru is like taking a dip in the holy Ganges. One is purified, one is uplifted, one is established in knowing rather than knowledge. So much for today. There is no time for meditation. So let us call it a day. And we can do the Hanuman Chalisa tomorrow. Is it okay? So tomorrow, Hanuman Chalisa. And then there are some surprises in store for all of you. But we'll keep it as a surprise for now. Thank you everyone. Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.